You're in
Yeah.
Denver now, right?
About an hour north of Denver.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
nice.
love Colorado, man.
Yeah, it's been a gorgeous day out here. Just super warm and sunny. Snow's melting. Yeah, it feels good.
I'm digging your hair.
Yeah, this is like the haircut I've always wanted to have, kind of
That's
like a dread
nice.
dread mohawk, and
Yeah,
like
that's tight.
and like kind of I keep like cutting a few inches from the top, getting it back there. But yeah, this is like the side trance dreadnought Shivite haircut that I've dreamed about, and
Yeah.
the zero fucks permission to just who cares. So finally hit the bullet.
Have you tried 5meo?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on that? How they dub it the God molecule?
I think it's one of the, I mean, a lot of them do, but I guess for me it was the kind of thing where it lived up to the hype for sure. It's really hard to put into words or even put into a visual description what that experience was like. But one thing I really remember from it, I encountered it for the first time in like 2012. I totally like bought into like the Mayan calendar 2012 hype cycle. I didn't know what was going to happen. I definitely had a lot of concern about it. There was this accumulation of like psychic anxiety, like what's going to happen, like this. Yeah, who didn't know? I mean, I was sipping off that Kool-Aid for a while, admittedly.
Same here.
And yeah, I mean, it seemed so convincing at the time, right? Like
Yeah.
it seemed pretty legit. I remember going up a mountain with the teacher there. The guy I went up was like, pretty high strung and really worried about a lot of stuff, and I spent a lot of time like freaking out and what is going to happen and what are you going to do, and
Yeah.
there's so many choices and options, and like the one takeaway that I did have through the 5meo, because there is an experience of total dissolving, totally surrendering, like surrendering where like all you're feeling is just the infinite love of God and the universe just expand and vibrate and move through your body. And in that kind of infinite moment of recognition, the insight that I had at that time really was so difficult to explain, because it's not like you hear words. It's like a gnosis. There's just this knowing and this understanding that happens. And the knowing, like the instantaneous eternal knowing and understanding that I got from that moment, it's something that I've always tried to take with me. It was a lot more gentle than I would have anticipated it to be, but it's this recognition from creator. I spend so much of my mind and my time just like worrying and strategizing and plotting and what's going to happen. And in that moment, like without a way of putting it into words, I just got this confirmation from center of the universe, from God, from spirit, just like Andy is like it's really cute, it's really charming that you're worried about these things like happening right now. We appreciate your concern, but if like never doubt for an instant that I don't have every single molecule of this reality on lock and exactly where it needs to be. Like you don't have the ability to see the full tapestry of what is happening, but you're doing what you need to do, and so much more complicated than I'm capable of describing. But I remember coming out of the mantra that I came out of it. It's almost like I almost kind of came to sort of speaking the mantra. It's one of my favorite mantras to this day. It was just, fuck it. Just fuck it. Fuck this fear and fuck this bullshit. Like, fuck anything that does not contribute to the nature of being a completely like free and expressed human being, and like sharing love and participating with reality in the most positive way possible. If we can take a step back and not take everything as serious and realize that there is whatever is going on, it's richer and more complex and more sophisticated than I have the capacity to understand. And that's through my own humility. You look at it like that. I don't want the fear of things getting worse to be what's motivating a lot of my decisions. But, if I have a choice, whatever's within my own freedom and my agency to be able to create and participate with, let's make it awesome. Never forget your first time with Salvia. But just check out, I want to shout out to Salvia Droid. He's an artist. His depictions of the Salvia state are, I think they're perhaps like the most courageously and brutally honest depictions that I've ever seen before. Like some of his images have conjured up kind of almost like a white knuckled tear of deep traumas. My subconscious has gone through a lot of effort to bury and forget. I get flashes when I see some of Salvia Droid's work. Yeah, he has the courage to like bring back the imagery. Maybe I just particularly found so terrifying that my consciousness did everything it could to erase it. He's keeping it real, keeping it 100.
I want to know about your near-death experience for sure. Like,
man, which one? Like one of the threads of like my creative career, especially within like 2006 onward, was I was consistently in the pursuit of the near-death experience. You know, so like people that are into hang gliding, you know, that kind of became something I was chasing for a while.
Interesting. Through psychedelics, or
yeah, psychedelics.
What was one that you found the most profound?
I think a lot. I think it really, I mean, the desire of it I think came from a sense of like a healing. Like I had a real near-death experience when I was 11 through a blood clot and a brain surgery that I had. And so that was kind of my first sort of wake-up call to the, you know, kind of out of the matrix of childhood into like, okay, we're all going to die. We all, you know, a limited opportunity on the stage here and kind of make things count. I had some experiences out in college. I had some trips out there that were, I don't know if they were so much like near death, but definitely I had experiences where I thought I kind of went through like a death trip. You know, that were those were incredibly terrifying. But it really wasn't. I'd say that, you know, in relationship, I guess with perspective of all the experiences that I've had since that, I think it was around like 2006. It was definitely sort of my first real significant ayahuasca experience. Ooh. I think out of all of them, several of them sort of had pieces and components that I recognized, but that was sort of like the first like full Monty, like here's the ticket, take a ride, all 3 acts of the chapter, you know, experience with ayahuasca. It is a real powerful ally to mankind and consciousness, but it really, you know, the mother really deserves a lot of reverence and respect, appreciation for the wisdom that it has for us. I'm consistently trying to prove myself like worthy of the insights that she's given me, for sure.
That's amazing.
I'd probably drink ayahuasca maybe like 70-ish times plus, you know.
70?
When I get into something, you know, I can be obsessive. I can go pretty deep. I did pilgrimages in South America and full on like dietas in the jungles. It's an incredibly powerful medicine. Yeah. Essentially, you're digesting a chemical combination of organic ingredients, and somehow upon this concoction of chemicals, upon reacting with your physical body, enters and alters your consciousness in a way where it gives access to a completely separate and intelligent form of consciousness that is so distinctly separate and alien from you. And then this form of consciousness, from having access to your physical body, somehow magically is able to enter into the Akashic records of all of your memories, experiences, dreams, and pull from that. It takes all of your memories, your fears, your wants, your desires, hidden desires, fears you didn't even know you had, and then uses that essentially as their palette of paint to create immersive, real-time experience, almost a diorama, and orchestrates an entire fantasy world story around you in order to teach you a lesson.
Regarding one of your amazing artscapes, Forward Escape, how did you connect with Tipper on that piece? And you discovered Tipper first, right?
Yeah, I fell hopelessly in love with Tipper's genius and his music from the first track I heard back in like 2006, and I haven't my appreciation, respect, and gratitude for him and what he creates has never wavered a day since. A lot of times when I do with Tipper, like even the visual shows, is like my job was, you know, his music is really I'd say the visionary psychedelic kind of pace car of the experience. And, you know, as humbly as I can, I find that my role within the audience, because no matter however we want to make up a kind of a social hierarchy. Like when I'm working at a tipper show, I am right there in the audience with all of y'all. I'm so grateful to be able to have, and part of the reason I even create microdose in these tools is so when I do have that rare opportunity, I'm able to, by creating a visual art, I feel like there's a few times it's happened. There's a Red Rock show that our Red Rock show would be probably like the high watermark of my audio visual career experience, and I'm 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 comfortable minting that as like the tip of the spear. But yeah, often like sometimes what I mean, it's different every time. You know, there's no like I can't say that there's like any kind of technique when working with tipper, but there's several occasions where I felt like in the midst of the experience, like my role was really being like a visual translator of like an alien language into like photons and colors and shapes in order to complement and get a deeper you know, richer download of this like infinite tapestry of sensation that he cascades upon our
Hmm.
open consciousnesses.
That's what your art does, man. Like you are an absolute genius.
We're all together, and on this, we're all trying to add some type of value and interaction with what's going on, just like what you're doing with reaching out to me to help share my thoughts. You know, I think each of us, we all have a role to play. We all have it. We're all a thread in this tapestry, you know. The day I stepped foot on Black Rock City was like also my first step away from being able to work within a like a commercial corporate like mega corporation. Something kind of opened up out on the playa. It led to a recalibration of values. You know, ever since I went to the first one, I think I just realized that it was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen before. And every year when it came around, there was nothing else I thought that was going on planet Earth that was as interesting during that week. And I think that that's what sort of drove me to go out there every time. It's different every time, it's different people every time. But I think one of the hallmarks of a great piece of art is that there's something within that that gives you an opportunity. Really great art works as a mirror. It's able to reflect an aspect of yourself that you recognize or that you're recognizing for the first time, or helps you recognize that there's a change that you need to make and inspires you towards that. And you know, the playa is the ultimate mirror of our creative consciousness. I mean, even the fact that it's just so open, it's a place where I think the powers of what's possible with consciousness and intention are real. It's like they're more unbridled, you know, without the distractions of money and advertising and commerce and all the things that I think we sort of anesthetize our true potential with. The playa has a way of really kind of reflecting that. And I've had experience of being able to see that reflection in the eyes of others. First time I went, I just went by myself. I got like a rental. I didn't know anybody, and I just was like, I just know I need to do this thing. And yeah, it kind of gives you an opportunity to sort of reset yourself, examine like who you are, what your story is, how are you interacting with the world around you, what kind of value can you be in other people's lives, and what can you contribute, and where do you need help? Like, where are the places that you do need help from other people because you can't do everything alone? It puts you in like really an intimate relationship with our humanity, our consumerism, our waste. It's kind of like all the light and all the shadow, all kind of dancing together out there. It has been such an incredible thing to kind of witness and take part of and try and, you know, in my own way to add and contribute something to it. Also, it gave me a new appreciation for community and what you can do, the power of individuals that are working towards a collective goal together. I think I've always been very introverted and much more of like a lone wolf, and it really pushed the edges of how I'm able to really interact with people and work together. So many beautiful things were created and burnt and discovered and erased out there for sure. Getting all nostalgic now. You know, we're a small team, really just like three guys with like an unreasonable dedication to kind of exploring what we've been able to create within kind of Unreal Engine, all these new immersive tools and opportunities. And yeah, our kind of first product we're going to be launching, we've had it on alpha for a while, but it's called Microdose VR. And that is, that's visceral, moving, dancing, creating. You're kind of manipulating. I was describing it to one of my friends just on another call, saying it's kind of like it's like a new, kind of like a light energy sound digital introvert like break dancing, I guess. You know, some call it tilt brush on acid. It's very visceral. It's very kind of audio reactive, and it's really, it was designed. I think the initial inspiration that we had when we started just looking at like all the possibilities and rabbit holes we could go down, what we all really centered on as I think like a core motivational like alignment and kind of calibration was like, how can we work within the parameters of the hardware and the software to make something that would have kind of a universal appeal and would allow someone to have the most like frictionless onboarding into a potential creative flow state. You know, it's kind of like sculpting, it's kind of like painting, it's kind of like dancing. It's really just movement and exploring these different shapes and particles that get created with that you have some agency over choosing. And we really wanted to just experiment with new opportunities of self-expression. So it's not really a game. There's no final boss. There's no princess to save. There's no point rankings. That all the rankings that we kind of have within our community are just more based off whatever kind of clout levels are, probably more just like time and dedication. But it's also software. It's software that I use for the last like 3 years of the visual experience that I've been doing, like with Tipper and a lot of the different like DJs and bands and we've been working with. Like I use
mind blowing.
Yeah, because and it kind of came out of I just got bored with all of the software options that I had. I felt like everything that I was using, I kind of exploited it to its nth degree. I needed a way of like using sort of intuition, being able to like viscerally control as many elements and really try to, it's in a way of sort of, you listen to the music, you hear what's going on, and I wanted to create a software with the set of like the VR, the headset and the motion controls to be able to communicate. It's really hard to communicate music, like the feeling and the energy of music, when you have just like a two-dimensional mouse and you're clicking clips.
Right.
Being able to like, I just wanted something that was that just took more advantage of the whole human machine by being able to use, you have pressure sensitive triggers and you can move your body, and we have different, I've got a bunch of like really cool like peripherals and dials and mice, but with VR, like we can just hit a button, make a gesture, and a dial appears wherever you want, It works with biofeedback. This would not be a commercially available product. The first line of testing we're doing is just with therapists. We want to work with institutions to start getting more data. We want to be able to achieve like some measured results over time. Like we've had a lot of success within our own, the small pool of testers that we've used, but we use a lot of the architecture of Microdose, which a lot of the coding, a lot of the systems and blueprints we set up, it's an architecture that really can take data and turn data into visuals in like meaningful and engaging ways. So we can take like a bass beat or a hi-hat or how the motion of your body, the same way we can take EKG signal or your alpha state. We work primarily with heart rates. We have a heart sensor, which is either like a Muse, or we're a little agnostic of what kind of input someone's using, but we've been using the Polar and the Muse sleep band. And once we can get a solid EKG, the therapist would sit you down, you got your headset on, you lay your hands at your side. We designed this one pretty limited agency, so you're kind of in a black kind of infinite space. Just imagine like a geometric portal, and it's just made of like a string of pearls of geometry, like a dodecahedrons or spheres. We can give you the sensation that you're either sitting there, it's like slightly moving down this tunnel, but the world that you're in, everything is reacting from the EKG of your heart. And so
nice.
And once we get your heart rate, you're seeing this portal. It's based off like polar math, and you're going down this portal, and it's undulating. The geometry, The colors are changing based off your heart rate. And once it calibrates to your body, which might take just a few minutes, there's kind of a moment of sort of syncopation where you're hearing a reverberated beat of your heart. You're seeing it change visually. And then we use like the Subpack backpack to feed that back. So there's haptics giving you this bass experience. And so we work to amplify your heart rate in an audio visual manner. So we use biofeedback to then feedback the haptic audio and visual data into your consciousness. So it's like you're getting high on your own biofeedback and
getting high on your own supply.
Pretty much, yeah. When you're developing software, I found that the level of complexity, this thing called feature creep, we always come up with different ideas, and there's so many directions to go down that can be kind of overwhelming. So in order to keep things on the reel, I find it's helpful to sort of set like what's a measurable goal. It's hard to define like what success is, but it's like our goal was to successfully create, the most immersive and meaningful virtual biofeedback you could experience with your own heart. I mean, essentially, that's our aims of the Chromadose project. And then there's a suite of outside controls that are available through OSC on like a tablet. And a therapist can then, once they have your heart rate, can then change all the parameters. You can go like down the portal. The portal like fractals out into like different lotus shapes. We can change the colors. We can change the frequency. And then through entrainment, we can then, once we get a solid calibrated heart rate, take it off autopilot, which is just working off your biofeedback, and then we kind of put it into manual mode. We can then modulate your pulse up and down. And so if you're at 90, we can then, take you to 80. We set a target of 80. We want to, we have the simple algorithms that'll take that heart rate and then bring the heart rate that you're seeing and feeling and the haptics down to say 80 BPMs over 2 minutes. And it'll interpolate between that and the 80 and bring you down. The principle is called entrainment, but it's incredible how sensitive we are to light and color and feedback. Our greatest accomplishment is taking someone from like 106 BPMs on their heart and bringing them down to like 60, I'll say 70 to not overflex on it, but we've been able to create like a significant artificial change in the actual heart rate through modulation and entrainment. Your body is essentially kind of a decentralized system, like every red blood cell, like they're not talking to the top brass, it's like looking at the blood cell next, it's feeling the body. And through the audio visual input and the power of the haptic feedback, essentially it kind of becomes the alpha heartbeat. I think when it comes to like building businesses or coming up with any idea that we're going to be committing a meaningful amount of time to, I've always been inspired to try to make sure that whatever I'm doing is addressing I look at like what are the unmet needs that humanity has right now, like within like health and wellness, and what's the number one killer across the planet. Spoiler alert, like it's not COVID, it's heart disease. Heart disease that's like the main like assassin of humanity right now. And heart disease is a signal of being totally out of touch with your heart. They all work as a team, but it is one of the most valuable organs that you have. And so being able to use technology to bridge that gap and create a bridge to having a more meaningful relationship with your body felt like it was a worthy and it was a noble cause to pursue with the technology.
That's amazing, man. Wow.
It's just like a fancy way of looking at your heart in VR. It's like just a technical stethoscope. One of my kind of side passions beyond making, psychedelic transformative biofeedback VR and artwork, ever since COVID, I've been just like all gas, no brakes on online government auctions and like large, heavy equipment auctions. There's a spot close to where our farm is out here called Ritchie Brothers. They're a big international, just industrial, just equipment, cranes, cement mixers. I'm big into like tools and material, heavy machine, like not so much heavy machinery, but I've been getting into welding. So I got these big metal like welding hooches, like an area to weld in. Got just nice. A couple tons of like 2-inch 18 gauge steel pipes to start playing around with. So
yeah,
it's kind of like my palette of sort of
sculpting
art supplies. Yeah, welding and sculpting.
That's nice.
And just building. I do a lot of building out on the farm, just kind of building things. So I'm kind of looking up on that. So got some good scores today. Like definitely leveled up some of the metal fabrication. Excited about that.
Sounds awesome. Are you building stuff for a potential future Burning Man, or?
In the meantime, until we know what's happening with Burning Man, I mean, I've gone to every burn since my first in 2003. Yeah, I mean, I'm a burner even if I didn't want to be anymore. It's at the point where it's a compulsive thing for me.
Mhm.
But I love it. I still love it. I bring my family, I bring my kids out to Burning Man. Yeah, I'm pretty ride or die Burning Man for sure. But in the meantime, until we know what's happening there, and I've just been focusing a lot more energy just locally, just kind of in the community here, building out the infrastructure of the land that we have here.
Mhm.
My wife and I have a really strong vision on like how we want to use this land. We've got two children now and third in the chamber, and
Yeah.
I really look forward to spending as much time with them and just children. I mean, children are there's a reason it's a cliche, but children are our future, and so
Yep.
I want to be investing, the abundance and the energy that we build into the most important thing or the most valuable way that I could invest my time is to really invest in the creation of new artists. We want to start making like maybe starting with summer camps to schools to kind of maker space, but there's a lot of plans that we have that involve really cultivating a new generation of like creative minds and opening up more possibilities for expression.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and you need metal for that. It takes metal, it takes tools, it takes
Yeah.
digging into the ground and laying down cement, and I'm all about the molecular transmigration of energy.
Working with the elements.
Yeah, no, I love tools.
Yeah.
I love technology and tools that expand the capabilities of what the body and the mind are capable to achieve. I think a lot of it too for COVID as well started to develop like almost like a therapeutic relationship with kind of the ritual around tools and just the general maintenance that it takes when you're on a property and you have land.
Hmm.
I go through like chainsaw therapy. I think something that I know that I've struggled with as an artist, it's a commonly sort of a universal challenge is that I think artists, more so than maybe some other paths of kind of vocations, are susceptible to an asymmetrical arrangement of energy in their lives or things get out of balance. Like it's something where I know a lot of artists, they really struggle with chaos, generally entropy, but entropy in the form of chaos. Look at the amount of self destructive behavior that is almost epidemic among some of our most celebrated and cherished artists of the last century. My theory on it, what I've sort of found is that we're all responsible for our own relationships with the dynamics of energy around us. And as artists, our gift and our opportunity of that expression is creation. It's one of the most miraculous components and dynamics of consciousness. And it's really important to be aware that there's always a balance, that there are counterleaving dynamics and shadow to everything that we do. And what I found like the shadow of creation is entropy. It is that chaos.
Mm.
Personally, I found a healthy amount of like relief and release when I can, because I feel like I'm always, whenever I'm being creative, I know that I'm contributing to a debt of chaos on the other side of that. And so
Hmm.
working with chainsaws, I got like a demolition hammer the other day, and busting rocks and cutting down dead limbs and having fires.
Yeah.
It's one of the hacks that I found that keeps me on like a more even keel and kind of I feel like I'm more the master of my own ship when I can really take that energy and like consciously transmute it through some molecular intermediary. Yeah, I grew up here. I grew up on this barn. I grew up with all these tools around, and yeah, I just love learning new tools and learning the new possibilities that they all open up. I've been into crypto for a while, since like maybe 2014. I first started getting into that, but my interest and kind of passion around the crypto space has really accelerated since I guess 4 months ago. I started selling digital artwork through NFTs online. Continuously start to expand and blow my mind with all of the things that are happening within the space of NFT, and even really in particular the community that has really formed around it. Just the incredible potential that it has to really lead and kind of help shape and mold a direction towards a really powerful and decentralized future that is sort of born directly from the kind of this overwhelming sentiment among culture, and how I think it's really being birthed out of the humanity's recognition of how many of the systems that we do consciously contribute to are just becoming unacceptable. And I can really see through NFTs and just the movement and the energy behind it. It feels like there's a real awakening to some meaningful new possibilities of outcomes for people, and kind of being within the NFT community and experiencing that it's been a real breakthrough for sure. I mean, there's no silver bullet to getting us out from where we're at right now. It is it's not like a panacea, but it really is. I feel like it really is. It's birthed from a response of seeing how centralization, the concentrated centralization of power, in all different places. I mean, obviously, the centralized power of governments, the centralized power of larger corporations, the centralized power of things like the music industry or the entertainment industry. There's all these older paradigms they've been showing their cracks for a while. And I think really with Corona, without all the distractions that they create, I think the game has become laid a lot more naked than it has before. And people are seeing that and responding to that. And, the world of NFTs, just the transfer of wealth within the crypto community, and that transfer to the independent artists that are succeeding within the NFT space right now. I mean, energetically, financially, physically, it is a transfer of power and energy. And I'm really optimistic and really excited to see how that moves the needle for all of us.
I really respect you, man, and appreciate you. Keep the creative spirit alive.
You keep it 100. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay.
Salute.
Take care.
Peace, brother.